Hello, I'm Simon Berkowitz, and today I'm talking with Liesel Teversham. Liesel supports introverts and other sensitive souls to feel confident and show up in their unique way. She loves helping her clients to clear out energetic blocks and embrace their strengths so that they can live authentically and make a difference in a sustainable, calm way. One of the main tools that she uses in her work is the Clifton StrengthsFinder. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Liesel, hi.
Hello, Simon. Thank you so much. This is awesome to talk to you. Thanks.
Yeah, likewise. Really, really pleased to find out a bit more about the StrengthsFinder. Can you just for somebody who hasn't come across it before, can you give us a quick introduction into the StrengthsFinder?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is an online assessment that people can take that will help them to find their unique strengths and the things that may be weaker for them. So I hear so often people say, I don't know what my strengths are. This is a tool that can help you with very, very specific strengths to help you understand what is strong for you and what may be weaker for you.
Okay, that's fantastic. And why do you use it? Why do you find it so useful with your clients?
So the answer to that, I think I can explain most or in the best way by going into some secrets in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
So when I just started my EFT journey around about 2005 or 6, I had a mentor who said to me, be yourself, all others are already taken. And that's a quote from Oscar Wilde.
Wonderful.
Now, I absolutely love that quote, and I had no idea how to do that.
Right.
I don't know if some of the listeners and you maybe have had experience of what I call comparisonitis. When we do something, there's always somebody else who does it better, 10 million steps better. And when we do that compare thing, we always feel like we're on the short end of the stick. I'll never be able to do that. So that creates that awful gap and just horrible feelings in the body. And when we're in that space, the brain actually can't learn. We can't learn how to do things better anyway. So we do ourselves a great disservice. And at the time, I just couldn't figure out how to be the unique EFT practitioner that I wanted to be. I kept striving to be like the people I was learning from. And it made it really hard and sort of exhausting to even try. Then a couple of years later, I had a friend who was a life coach, and I loved this friend. And she was what I call a kick-ass coach. You know, she was one of those that really got results. She got results for her clients. Her clients made strides, made big leaps. They took action. You know, by the end of the 8 weeks with her, they started their book. And I kept looking at this thinking, my golly, you know, I would love to be like that, but I just, and I compared myself again. Like I want to be like that, and somehow I feel less than that. I just can't be like that. And I kept trying, and that's the key is, you know, kept trying. So it's an awful experience, I think, as you know, and some of our listeners may know as well, that we keep doing that to ourselves. And what we do in those moments is we compare their best to our worst.
Yeah. Yes.
So how unfair is that to ourselves? And if we don't know another way, it possibly will keep happening. So that very same friend, after about 10 years of knowing her, introduced me, because she just learned about it, to the Clifton StrengthsFinder. And she helped me to find my main strengths. And as I discovered them with her, I was absolutely astounded and relieved. And I found, like, finally I can relax. There is no way I can be like her, because her strengths are totally different from mine. What's at the top for her, literally, her number 1 was my number 34, right at the bottom.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So if I kept trying and trying and trying, I was going to really shoot myself in the foot every single day. It was just not possible for me to be like her. And what was high in my strengths was low in her strengths. So we were sort of almost complete opposites. And to do that comparison is just such a ridiculous thing. So what it meant for me in my life was an amazing sense of relaxation. I can just be my unique self. The clients who need her will find her work valuable. There are some people who will be cracked and raw, and they won't be able to function with the kind of things that she brings to her work. But the clients who need me will find my strengths appealing, and I can work with them in a different way than what she could possibly offer. And so we're all needed in this world, and that's what I find so amazing, is if we can work with those strengths, we do our best work, and people will love us for what we bring, not what we try and do like somebody else, because it won't work.
Oh, I love that. So it kind of helps us move out of that comparison state and to give up trying to strengthen ourselves where we don't actually have the natural ability, and actually then focus all our energy to where we really are strong.
Yes.
And show up in that.
Yes, show up in that. And it's so much more energizing and fun and easy, and we can relax, because I can remember being constantly anxious, nervous. When you're trying to be something that you're not, or that's very hard, it takes a lot of energy. It's draining.
Yes.
So we literally can't show up as our best version if we do that.
Yeah. No, that makes absolute sense. So you sort of contrasted a little bit your sort of style. Can you say a little bit more about the types of issues that you really like to help people with?
Yes, thank you. So many people who come to me come because of a specific problem they experience now, for instance, trouble in a relationship, or relationship breaking down, or a career not quite working. And in that process, we find often that there are things that were created in childhood, patterns that were created in childhood, that need to be worked through before the current issue will completely resolve.
Okay.
And that work needs a lot of safety. Mm-hmm. So to kick somebody out of the nest, or, to expect them to take actions that are just not possible for them, is what I feel with my strengths very unkind. They won't thrive that way. They won't feel safe. So the way that I work with clients creates that safety, and my strengths make that possible. So working with childhood patterns that were set up possibly because of abuse, whether emotional, mental abuse, just neglect, things like that, creates a very different kind of thing that we need to work through than just, come on, let's kick ass and we, move forward with this goal that you have, and why aren't you doing it?
Yeah, I can see. I mean, just you're saying that almost sounds kind of, it could be, for the wrong person at the wrong time, almost abusive to try and kickstart things in that way.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I say we can all work within our strengths, and the people who need those strengths will benefit if we bring those strengths out into the world. So yes, we need all sorts of different therapists. We need all sorts of different coaches. We need all sorts of different stress management coaches. And what we're attracted to is that authentic energy that the coach or the therapist brings. And if we really, really just live from that place, the right people who need that kind of help can find us.
Yes. I was just thinking about the early life patterns that you were talking about, and this comparison thing, and wondering if we have sort of an upbringing where our strengths aren't reinforced, how that kind of affects these patterns. Could you say a little bit about that? I'd be very interested to hear.
Yeah, that's a fascinating question, and I think we could talk about it for weeks or so. And I'll try and keep it short, just maybe with an example.
Yeah.
What I've seen in some of my clients, I work so much with introverts, and some of what their parents try to reinforce in them is the exact opposite of what their strengths are. Wow. So they tend to, just a very real example is somebody that I can remember who the talent or strength of called responsibility, taking responsibility, making sure things are delivered and finished to the end. For this person I'm thinking of now, that was in her bottom strengths. In other words, it was very draining for her to try and decide what she was going to do and go through with it right to the end. Her father had high responsibility though. So he tried to drum into her, you know, you have to finish what you start. You absolutely have to. And it created such massive guilt for her. Whereas her strengths were more functioning in the moment, that what came onto her plate, that was what she found easy to focus on now. So that sort of dissonance that can be created when our parents' strengths are pretty opposite to ours, I've seen often, and it can create really, really stressful conflicts in our inner world.
Right.
Yes, yes. Definitely in the child's outer world, you know, between parent and child.
Yeah.
But then it writes some stuff in our subconscious that says, my truth is, I'm more a person that responds in the moment and can go with the flow. That is how I function best. But my father taught me if I don't follow through, I'm the world's worst person or whatever. And so we get these limiting beliefs about ourselves, like I'm not good enough. In that moment, you don't feel good enough for that parent who's trying to, they're just doing their best to try and teach you the best way they know how. And if it goes opposite to our true, authentic strengths, the things that we're born with, and some nature and nurture in there, both of them, it can create massive inner conflicts. It can last a lifetime and create difficulties at work, in relationships, in the way that you show up in the world.
God, and such an energy drain to be trying to do things using the wrong, I suppose it's like a tool I'm thinking of, you know, that kind of, that strength, but to be using the wrong thing the whole time.
Yes.
You know, it's just going to be a disaster.
Yes. In fact, that's a really great point. It is like we have these tools, and, you know, some of them come out of us naturally, others we have to drag out of that toolbox, and that's what happens when we have to drag those things out of the toolbox, and it's hard work. It literally keeps draining our energy. And I've also worked with people who built a whole career. They've been in that career for 20 years where they had to drag those things out of the toolbox every day. The result, fibromyalgia. I can't absolutely scientifically prove that's what happened, but the result was his energy was consistently low, fibromyalgia, pain in the body. His body didn't love his life.
No. I mean, there's something so simple about this. I'm also wondering a little bit. So when somebody comes to you, they have to take the test. Is that right, online?
Correct. So they take it about 40 minutes. Yes.
Okay, so they take that and then they get the reports and they give you that information. Yes. And then how would you go about working with somebody? Just an idea.
Great. There's two ways that we can work with it. A person can start with a top 5 only, and that gives them a fantastic start with, we call your top 5 your signature strengths.
Yes.
And we then, what I'd love to do is to go really in detail into those 5 signature strengths with a person, if that's the way they choose to go, and help them see it in their lives. Like, help them to make it come alive in their life. We apply it in their life. Like, where is it? What's the interplay? How does this one work together with this one? Are there super themes, you know, 2 of them that may strengthen each other, or opposing themes that feel like they sort of pull in opposite directions, and we need to know how to work with this in our lives to bring the best out.
So you could actually have a conflict in your top 5 where you've got 2 things working against each other.
Absolutely. Like, I have a client who have adaptability, which loves to go with the flow, and he's got something called discipline, which loves to make plans, plan and follow the plan. So these 2 can sometimes feel like, you know, I'm not so sure which one to follow. So we need to know when to apply which one to really get the best out of them. Otherwise, we sit with that, like, wondering what on earth is going on. I want to do this and I want to do that. And then we feel wrong, like something is wrong with us. What is wrong with me? Whereas strengths is everything about what is right with you. I think that's what I haven't said yet here. Yes, what is right with you?
That's such a, I mean, because so much in the self-development, personal development world, there's kind of looking at what's wrong and trying to fix it.
Yes.
And this kind of is a completely different approach to that, isn't it?
Yes.
Than what you've just said.
Correct, Simon. That was one of my biggest eye-openers, because the other tool that I use is EFT, Emotional Freedom
Right.
Techniques,
Yeah.
where we look for what's the blocks, what's the things that stop us, where is it hurting, what is wrong in my life, and we clear out the energetic patterns around that. And when I found the strengths, it was almost like I was looking over there, and then with strengths, it's like, oh, but there's this whole other part over here that I've been ignoring.
Yes.
So it's like it's like you put on glasses with a different color.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly
Yeah.
you look at,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, there's already so much right with us.
Well, I mean, just the image of if I'm spending 5% of my energy where it's going to be most creative and effective, and 95% of my energy on stuff where I'm getting very little positive output. Just the awareness of where I can start to put my energy is amazing.
Yes.
And then I imagine as I start to do that, blocks come up.
Yes.
And that's when you can then use the EFT to clear that out. Yeah, okay.
Yes, exactly. You said it so well. Exactly. Because people start thinking, but why am I not using this one so much? Or I've got subconscious, I call it writing on the walls, inside your subconscious mind that somebody else gave you about that talent. For instance, another secret from my life is I've got the talent of harmony. So I like creating win-win situations, and I want everybody to win. And I always got labeled as a child as being two-faced.
Oh.
Because I could see both points of the story. So I had really bad labeling going on that gave me, what do you say, like low confidence or low self-esteem around that issue.
Yeah.
And then when I saw my strengths, it's like, this is totally the opposite to what I've always been believing about myself. And we all, well, many people have those negative labels put on them as children for various reasons. And it could be you've got a negative label about one of the most positive things about you, that we need to clear out some of that negative.
So that must be such a relief for people working with you when they see one of those.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And I can attest to that from my own life. Like what a relief it was for me to realize. Like it was a complete paradigm shift for me.
To realize you're not two-faced at all.
Yeah. I may even be three-faced,
Who knows?
Everybody's point of view. But that's not a bad thing.
No.
I think the thing is I got told or programmed that it's a bad thing. I have to be able to choose sides.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds to me like one of the things that happens is that with your work is that as people become more aware of their strengths, it puts them in a position of choice.
Yeah.
Much more. Could you say a little bit, maybe give an example of a time when you've seen somebody use this really effectively for themselves?
Yes. Let me think of a great example. Well, actually, even there's a talent called deliberative, which is a talent that some people have a lot of trouble with because it can bring up, its job is to bring up all the concerns, to make sure that we take care of all the risks before we go ahead with big steps.
Yes.
And that kind of, if we don't know what is happening with it, it can feel to us like, or people can judge us and blame us for just being negative, for instance. And inside it can create this very, very big quagmire of concerns and fears and worries. And I'm just seeing all the negatives and feel wrong again. But if we can help that talent to sort of, or understand it as it's trying to help me. So I've had clients who come with I can't take steps forward because, I want to start a coaching practice, but I can't because this thing is going to go wrong. That thing is going to go wrong. That thing is going to go wrong. That thing is going to go wrong. And if we can help that person to understand that their talent is doing their best for them. It's doing their job. It's doing its job fantastically well. And we can work through each one of these fears in a way that feels respectful. And calm, not to make it wrong. That talent can help them make the best decisions. to go forward with their lives. So if each one of them have almost, I can say, a shadow side and a shining side. And we need to know what's the shadow side. Like my harmony can run away from conflict. Yes. Because it just hasn't necessarily, it fears conflict. It wants win-win for everybody. So if we don't learn the skills to manage that talent, it can look a little bit like two-faced or something like that. Okay. So yeah, that's just a little example. That's not too revealing about deliberative.
Yeah. Okay. So it kind of brings me to one of the questions which I have. So I mean, what about sort of almost like, doesn't it put people in a box a bit? Is that the case? I mean, because, I'd love to hear a bit about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would understand if people said, I don't want to do another test that's going to put me in a box, because we've got enough of that already. And I'm exactly talking about uniqueness. Yeah. So I don't want to be putting anybody in a box, right? Yeah. So the good news with Gallup StrengthsFinder is it absolutely doesn't put us in a box, and I'll give you why. If we just talk about our top 5, so there's your top 5, or then you can do the assessment for your full 34. It gives you your list of full 34 strengths. If we just talk about your top 5, the chance that any random order in the world is how shall I say that? That somebody else has got my top 5 in a random order is 1 in 280,000. Right. So that's already pretty unboxy. Yeah. But if we take my strengths, my top 5 in the exact same order, the chance that somebody else has that is 1 in 33.9 million. Wow. So the clever people with maths, as a strength, have worked all this out. And now we haven't even talked about your history, your background, your knowledge, your skills, your values, your goals, your parents, your upbringing, your schooling, all of those. And we haven't put into the mix the rest of the 34. So this tool really is one of the ones that I believe helps you to realize your uniqueness more than anything else.
Well, actually, I mean, the maths is one thing, but when you then add in all the other factors into that, and that's brought into the mix, it does rather sort of take away from that. I think also what comes to mind is it seems to be so much about awareness, bringing awareness to what you're doing and actually just finding where you're good at things. And I guess that also that's not a very boxy thing.
It's not a very boxy thing. The other box that I want to just name this, like sometimes people can think, well, now I'm never going to have to do the other things that I'm not so great at. That's not quite how it works. We also need to grow up a little bit, and sometimes we just need to suck it up and do the things that are hard for us as well, because life just doesn't give us just the easy stuff that goes according to what's easy for us. Right. So sometimes we do need to delve deep and dig deep into all those things out of the toolbox that's like way down the bottom. So we can still grow in them and improve them a little bit, but the chance that they will ever come up to the strong box is very slim, because you have to spend so much focused energy to develop those same neural pathways that have already been there for your things that are strengths. Yes, yeah. Exactly.
No, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? That you just have to do.
We sometimes just have to.
And does awareness of these? I'm just wondering. Does awareness of these areas where we lose energy mean that we can find better ways to manage them?
Yes, that's a fantastic question, because there's various ways we can work with them then. The awareness helps us to not schedule most of our day in those areas, trying to use those tools. Yeah. For instance, one of the things we can do is, if I know I have to do something, it's going to use one of those bottom tools, I schedule something before it that's energizing, and something after it that's energizing. So it puts the energy back. And then another thing is I have various friends who I can draw on for the things that I'm not so strong on. And I can just ask them, like, because I'm not a good starter. Starting anything is really hard for me. So I'm a great finisher. So I can ask some of my friends, you know what, I'm having trouble starting this thing. Just help me get started. Or what would you know, or just having a conversation with somebody to help me get started or inspired about the thing can just set me off. Whereas if I sit here trying to draw that number 34 from outside, you know, down the box, it's very unenergizing and uninspiring, and it does sap our energy. So there's various ways to manage each one of those if they are draining for us.
Wow, I mean, it sounds like a lovely way to make your day much more enjoyable.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, yes.
To be thinking about where can I get lovely energy from, and to know clearly what those things are.
Yes, exactly, Simon. It creates community also if we know, like I know so many people's strengths in my life, and I was like, oh, I know I can use that person. Or when somebody comes with an idea and I know they've got high ideation, I go, this is worth listening to. I'm going to pay attention because I know that, So it helps us appreciate each other. It helps us understand each other. Like, okay, this person is not really at their best today, but they're trying to do something that's really hard for them. And it's easy for me. So maybe I can step in and, you know, assist or support or something. So just creates that give and take. I think human beings are designed for community.
Wow, it's so much more than a test, isn't it?
Yeah. True. Yes, and you can't get it wrong. It's not a test that you can get wrong. So.
No, absolutely. Liesel, so wonderful talking to you today, and wonderful to find out a bit more. Are there any last thoughts you'd like to share?
Yes, I have a quote that I'd love to end off with because it really brings home for me every time I read it how important it is for each one of us to just bring forth our unique talents and bring that out into the world. And it's from a lady called Martha Graham that they call the mother of modern dance. So it goes like this. There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And there is only one of you in all time. This expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and be lost. The world will not have it. So that to me just sort of brings it all together nicely, and it gives me goosebumps every time. So yeah, and then maybe if anybody wants to communicate with me about their strengths or hear how they can work with it.
How can they find you?
Yeah, the best place I think is my website, savvyselfgrowth.com/strengths. There is a specific page that talks a little bit about strengths, and they're welcome to drop me a note from that page.
And that's Savvy with 2 V's, SAVVY.
That's right, savvyselfgrowth.com. Yes, strengths.
Wonderful. Well, Liesel, thank you. It was wonderful to find out a bit more about strengths and how versatile they are. And lovely to speak to you today.
Thank you so much, Simon. It was just a pleasure and a delight. Thanks for your great questions.